What's up, everybody, and welcome to Stoniecast number 73 and Season 3, Episode 6 of Thoughts and Hunches Making Money in Bunches and Sucker Punches. It's your boy Stony back, and I'd like to welcome all of my fellow hoodlums, cheats, lowlifes, hustlers, scumbags, altar boys with unhealthy relationships with their priests, foul-mouthed raging alcoholics, fienders, and degenerates. Hey, if you're new to the show, welcome. And make sure to hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner so you can be notified every time I put out a new video, usually on Friday evening. Also, if you're new, you've missed an unprecedented run by your boy to kick off the season. Last week just proved that episode 4, our only losing week of the season, was just a mirage as we rolled on to another huge Saturday to build those bankrolls way up to an unheard of 70% winners in college football this season. We held it together long enough in the NFL to get us to 65% overall in the season. Yeah, craziness has been happening over here. Well, let's take a look. Let's dive deep into the numbers from last week. 22, 10, and 2. 22 wins, 10 losses, two ties. 68.75%. Yeah. NCAA football last week. 14, 4, and 1. How you like me now? That puts our total season NCAA football record 57 wins, 24 losses, and 1 tie. 70.37%. 70%. NFL last week, 8, 6, and 1. We'll take it. Not great, but we'll absolutely take it. That got us to 25 wins, 20 losses, and 1 tie. Good for 55.55%. We'll get that up to 57%. That's the goal. That's what we're shooting for. So overall for the season right now, 82 wins, 44 losses, 2 ties. Good for 65.08%. I've always told you that 57% is top notch. Nobody hits 60%. 60% is Hall of Fame level prognostications. 65%, that's your boy. For the haters, and I know that you're out there because I hear from you. Sometimes I don't hear from you, but I hear from you from other people. One of my oldest friends in the world, since I don't use real names on here, let's just call him the Gooch. He's like a brother to me. We did everything together growing up. He sent me this picture of a quote that I'm sure you guys will enjoy, because I certainly did. His kids gave it to him for Christmas, and it's framed. It's up in his office. It's from a guy named Kobe Bryant. Not sure if you've ever heard of him. He's almost as famous as the Gooch. But here's the quote. Mamba mentality. Learn to love hate. Embrace it. Enjoy it. You earned it. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and everyone should have one about you. Haters are a good problem to have. Nobody hates the good ones. They hate the great ones. End quote. Exactly. That's all I could say. You know who you are. The reason I put these videos out there is for everyone to see who I like, and hopefully we can all beat the book together. On the off chance I have a bad week, I'm ready for the criticism. But how about a little love when I deliver, like I've done 4 out of 5 weeks, and especially last week? There are a couple regular subscribers that were actually upset that I buried the book last week. Can you imagine that? And another one who actually hates my pendant that I wear. Can you believe that? Talking shit about my pendant. For those that are curious, this pendant is my namesake. That's right, it's my namesake, Archangel Michael, the protector of the kingdom. Right? I know about them BOP rules. and what you're allowed to bring into your cell, you jagoff. Like I said last week, feel free to fade my picks all you want, but do so at your own peril. If you were to fade every one of my picks so far this year, you'd be hitting at a whopping 31%. Good luck with that. That's all I can say. No more hate. Let's stay on the positive. Are y'all ready for this? Here we go. NCAA Week 6 tomorrow, Saturday, noon Eastern Time. The Little Apple in Manhattan, Kansas. 25th ranked Kansas State, 3-1, 7.5 point chalk at home against Texas Tech, who comes in also 3-1. Both schools bounced back from losses 2 weeks ago with impressive wins last week. K-State rebounded from a loss to Tulane by winning at Oklahoma last week, which really helped, because a loss to Tulane doesn't help. Texas Tech made up for their loss to NC State by beating Texas last week. KSU may have Deuce Vaughn and Adrian Martinez and all the momentum right now, but I like the Red Raiders with all the points on the road. Give me the dog, the road dog. Noon Eastern Time, Iowa City. Iowa City. Wave to the children with cancer. Kinnick Stadium, where top 5 schools go to die. Well, we're going to find out again. 3-1 Iowa is hosting 4th ranked and 4-0 Michigan. Michigan's a 10.5 point chalk here. All right. In the Kirk Ferentz era, Iowa as an unranked team versus top 5 visitors is 5-3 and have won 5 of their last 6. With confidence down on Michigan after they struggled to put away Maryland last week, this is the time to pounce on the Wolverines. I'm a big fan of Ferentz, I call him Ferentz, but his offense is brutal this year, and Big Blue's defense should have their way with the Hawkeyes. Take Michigan and watch the Wolverines roll. Lay them all day long. Noon Eastern Time, we're going to stay in the Big Ten and go to Stoneapple, Minnesota. 4-0, 21st ranked Minnesota, 12.5 point chalk over 2-2 Purdue. Purdue gifted a win to Syracuse 2 weeks ago and looked like they were going to lose 2 straight until they came from behind to knock off Florida Atlantic last week in a squeaker. Now they head to Stoneapple to take on the undefeated Gophers. Head coach P.J. Fleck has the Gophers rowing that boat after 3 easy blowout wins to start the season. Had the public questioning whether or not they were for real. All right, well, a 34-7 pounding of Michigan State and East Lansing last week certainly made up for that. Minnie is red hot, and I ain't going against them tomorrow, especially at home. Lay 'em. Noon Eastern Time, SEC football. Saturdays in the South. For those of you that don't know, the 3 F's. They follow family, football, and faith here in the South. In order, it's family, faith, and football. Noon Eastern Time at the Grove. I've been to most of the SEC campuses for football games. Not all of them yet, but so far, the Grove is the best experience I've had. Death Valley and Baton Rouge was a lot of fun. Tuscaloosa's a lot of fun. Athens is a lot of fun. Starkville's a lot of fun. Knoxville is a hell of a lot of fun. But right now, as far as I'm concerned, the Grove beats them all. Ole Miss, 4-0, ranked 14th. They're hosting 7th ranked and 4-0 Kentucky. Kentucky may be 7th and 4-0, but they're 7-point dogs here at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is 4-0 and enters the teeth of their SEC schedule tomorrow. After 3 blowouts to start the season, the Rebels had a tough time putting away Tulsa last week, but they still delivered. Tomorrow they face a hungry bunch of Wildcats who've ridden the arm of Will Levis to a 4-0 start on their own. The Cats welcome back Superback Chris Rodriguez from suspension tomorrow and have the weapons to keep this one close right up to the end. I like the Rebels, and I love Lane Kiffin, but the Cats get the cover here, possibly through the back door, though Ole Miss still wins. Noon Eastern Time, Fort Worth, Texas. Big 12 action. 18th ranked 3-1 Oklahoma, 6.5-point chalk. They head into Fort Worth to take on 3-0 and unbeaten TCU. TCU comes in ranked 9th nationally in total offense and are coming off an emotional win over head coach Sonny Dykes' former team SMU last week. Quarterback Max Dugan is efficient, but TCU's ground attack has been their bread and butter so far, with Kendre Miller and Amari DiMercado leading the way. OU is number 7 nationally in total offense, with an average of 513 yards a game. But they're coming off a loss to K-State last week in a game where K-State quarterback Adrian Martinez just went off and absolutely torched the Sooner defense to the tune of 4 touchdowns. Right, three rushing, 1 passing. Right, it was ugly. Right, it absolutely got ugly, and you can't expect Oklahoma's defense to continue that way. OU, here's the key stat. OU has lost back-to-back games in the regular season just once since 2000. Yeah, it's 22 years. And that was 2 years ago when they fell to K-State and Iowa State to start Big 12 play. Since that's not going to happen here, we'll roll with the Sooners and road chalk here all day. Lay 'em. 2 p.m. Eastern Time, Rice-Eccles Stadium, Pac-12 action, Utah, Oregon State. Utah, 3-1, ranked number 12 and 10-point favorites over 3-1 Oregon State. 2 very good Pac-12 teams. OSU is playing really well right now. And even though they lost for the first time at home in 2 years last week to USC, they still covered the number, giving me and us a winner. Now, this is a very dangerous team that's playing with a lot of confidence, though they're in trouble tomorrow heading into Salt Lake City, where Utah is brutal. The big difference here is not only the talent level, though OSU is closing the gap quickly, but the Beavers are just not the same team away from Corvallis. Utah runs the ball. They have a major advantage on their offensive line. And they run the ball, and Cam Rising is getting better, and he's constantly improving, and Utah's going to show him tomorrow with a relatively easy win and cover. I hate to say it, because I hate to go against the Beavs, who are playing well, but I like Utah. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, ACC action in Tallahassee. 2 ranked ACC teams. Wake Forest, ranked 22nd and 3-1. They're at undefeated, 4-0, 23rd ranked Florida State. The big story in this one is that aside from the fact that 2 ACC teams not named Clemson and NC State are both ranked, it's the weather. The city of Tallahassee is prepared and ready to host the game despite Hurricane Ian causing damage all over the Sunshine State the last few days. The Noles are 4-0 after last week's blowout win over BC. A question of who they've beaten is obvious, though, with wins over a beaten-up Louisville squad and an LSU team that is, well, not very good. Wake comes in at 3-1 after their lone loss last week to Clemson in overtime, in which they had multiple chances late to put the game away, but fell short. Still got us the cover, though. I'm taking the points here with Wake and quarterback Sam Hartman, and while FSU is improving, they will probably still notch the win, but I'll gladly take the touchdown on the road. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Lawrence, Kansas, Big 12 action. Very good matchup here. 3-1 Ohio State comes in as 3-point favorites at 4-0 Kansas. KU may not be ranked yet, though they should be, but they're 4-0, and we ain't talking about Bill Self's hoop squad either. Tennessee Tech, West Virginia, Houston, and Duke last week have all felt the power of the Jayhawk offense, which is ranked 7th in the nation in points per game with 47 per right now. Quarterback Jason Daniels ranks 20th in total offense and is an early Heisman dark horse choice right now. The Cyclones come to town, though, with a defense ranked 14th in allowing just 266 yards per game. In conference, they're ranked number 1 up and down the board everywhere you look. Coming off a tough home loss last week against Baylor, I look for Iowa State to bounce back strong here as the public gets infatuated with KU's impressive start that they forget this game is won in the trenches. There's a reason the Clones are road chalk here. Take them and lay them. Excuse me. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Fayetteville, Arkansas, SEC action. 3-1 and 20th ranked Arkansas is at home hosting 4-0 second ranked Alabama, who comes in as 17-point favorites. The last time Arkansas beat Bama was back in 2006, which coincidentally was the year before Nick Saban arrived in Tuscaloosa. That's 15 straight W's for the Tide over the Hogs to make it 6, and to make it 16, it's going to happen in Fayetteville tomorrow. Bama has typically rolled over a few glorified high school teams at home so far this season, and in their only road game, the Tide got away with murder in Austin, as Texas had Bama on the ropes and should have beat them. The Razorbacks blew a 2-touchdown lead last week in College Station. Arkansas runs the ball very, very well and ranks 9th nationally behind the SEC's leading rusher, Raheem Sanders. Quarterback KJ Jefferson is a dual threat as well, and that has traditionally been difficult for the Tide. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you Arkansas is going to win this one, but I'll take the Hogs catching 17 at home all day long, even though a certain greaseball Italian homeboy of mine, Tony T, sorry to bring you up, brother, he always says, if you want to keep your money, don't bet against Nick Saban. Sorry, Tone, I'm rolling with the Hogs here. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Big 12 action in Waco, Texas. Two ranked Big 12 teams, 3-0 Oklahoma State, ranked 9th in the nation, comes in to face 3-1 16th ranked Baylor. Baylor's 2.5-point favorites, and in a rematch of last year's Big 12 title game, undefeated Okie State comes in to take on the dangerous 3-1 Bears. Head coach Dave Aranda, who I'm a big fan of, led the Bears to a win in their Big 12 opener last week over Iowa State, and their only setback so far was back in Week 2 to a very good BYU squad. Okie State head coach Mike Gundy, who I'm also a huge fan of, knocked off Baylor last year in the regular season before the heartbreaking loss in the title game, is coming off a bye and should have the Pokes ready to go. Give me the road dog here, catching 2.5. 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Starkville, Mississippi, SEC action. 3-1 Mississippi State is 3.5-point favorites against 3-1 and 17th ranked Texas A&M. In a very good SEC matchup, we get to find out a lot about two programs. As the Aggies head to Stark Vegas, A&M is a confounding squad so far, as they were a preseason number 5 but tumbled big time after a home loss to Appalachian State 3 weeks ago. They followed it up with a win over Miami in a game that the Ags were thoroughly dominated except for the scoreboard. Miami beat Texas A&M up and down the field, but they turned the ball over when it counted and couldn't cash in, and A&M got the win. Then last week, they spotted Arkansas a 2-touchdown lead before taking over in the middle quarters and then holding on for dear life down the stretch to get the win. Mississippi State, on the other hand, they're also confounding. They have 3 blowout wins and a head-scratching loss to an LSU team that just simply has no heart. Quarterback Will Rogers, though, in a Mike Leach air raid offense, will sling it all around the field, and he'll cause fits for the Ags. I like the home chalk here as the Cowbells will be out and the Bulldogs get the cover. 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Pullman, Washington, up in the Palouse. Pac-12 action, 3-1 Washington State, 4-point favorites over 3-1 Cal. Somehow Cal's 3-1. Yeah, Cal. C-A-L, which stands for Cal always loses. With no impressive wins on their resume and a win over UNLV in which they were outplayed and should have lost, but they got gifted a win by the Rebels. The Bears did, however, play well in a loss to Notre Dame 2 weeks ago and got the cover. Wazoo started out 3-0 with a very impressive win over Wisconsin in Madtown, but they lost a heartbreaker at home last week to Oregon, in which the spread was way more exciting than the actual result. And I won't get into the details, but if you were on either side of this game, you were just losing your mind. But I will tell you that we left with a W. At home again, I like the Cougars to bounce back strong against the clearly outgunned Cal squad, and Wazoo gets back to their winning ways in the Palouse with an easy cover. 7 p.m. Eastern Time. The Plains, Jordan-Hare Stadium, SEC action. 3-1 Auburn is 8.5-point dogs versus 3-1 LSU. In a matchup of the two worst 3-1 programs in the nation, Brian Kelly and his family head to the Plains for their first road game of the season in Week 5. Yeah, to battle a really bad 3-1 Auburn team. LSU's only win that might mean anything at all happened at home at night against Mississippi State 2 weeks ago, and those were surrounded by 2 wins over a couple of high school JV squads. I mean, come on. Auburn hasn't been much better. Their only test was a blowout loss at home to Penn State, and they had narrow wins over San Jose State and last week to the worst team in the SEC, Missouri, in which Missouri missed the chip shot field goal that would have won the game. LSU is bad, period, and Auburn's worse, but I still like the home dog in conference over the sorry-ass Chinese Bandits. Yeah, I said it, sorry-ass Bandits. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Death Valley, Clemson, ranked 5th, 4-0, and 7-point favorites over 10th seeded 4-0 NC State. This is ACC right here. This is a class of the ACC. A matchup of the two teams in the ACC that we all knew would be the class of the conference. The Wolfpack head south to take on the Tigers in a battle of 2 unbeaten top 10 teams. Clemson's only true test so far this season came last week in a thrilling 51-45 overtime win over Wake Forest, in which the Tigers held on for dear life after building a big lead early on and getting a gift from Wake in overtime. NC State's only real test so far was a blowout in which the Wolfpack methodically took apart Texas Tech 2 weeks ago. And that's a good Texas Tech team. Senior quarterback Devin Leary continues to improve and can cause Clemson's defense a lot of headaches. Clemson's most likely will get the W at home, but I like the points and the Wolfpack a lot. So don't be afraid to take a flyer and a money line play. But in the meantime, take the Pack plus 7. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Austin, Texas. West Virginia's 2-2 and 9.5-point dogs. They come in to take on 2-2 Texas. This is a matchup of two Big 12 schools in desperate need of a conference win. Mountaineers head to the Lone Star State, and an impressive loss, if there is such a thing, to Alabama a few weeks ago had Texas feeling good about themselves until they fell in Lubbock last week to Texas Tech in one of our many winners. West Virginia's 2 L's came to start the season and are looking better as the season wears on because they lost a thriller at Pitt and played well, though came up short the following week against unbeaten Kansas. Last week's dismantling on the road of Virginia Tech was nice for their confidence, but they've got a lot of work to do to pull off this upset. While it ain't going to happen, I still like the Mountaineers catching 9 in a chunk on the road. 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Tucson, AZ. Pac-12 action. 2-2 Arizona, 17.5-point favorites over 0-4 Colorado. Yes, you ask why I'm playing this. This is a matchup of two bad Pac-12 schools. A bad Arizona team with wins over North Dakota State and San Diego State, with losses to Mississippi State and Cal, is somehow 17.5 points worth of chalk. It's very difficult to lay this kind of number with a team like Zona. But it just goes to show you how truly bad Colorado is. Blowout losses in all 4 games. The TCU, Air Force, Minnesota, and UCLA means the Buffs are a true disaster. And until they show me something, I'm going to keep fading them. Zona, Lamb. 10:30 p.m. More Pac-12 action. La La Land. 4-0 and 6th ranked USC. 25.5 point chalk versus 1-3 Arizona State. The Sun Devils opened their season with a blowout win over Northern Arizona and has completely fallen apart ever since. Losses to Oregon State, Eastern Michigan, and Utah, in which they weren't even in any of them, are nothing compared to the firing of head coach Herm Edwards, and a firing that was actually worse than when USC famously left Lane Kiffin on the tarmac. Now they head to the Coliseum to take on the 6th-ranked men of Troy, who are coming off a gritty win in Corvallis last week, and another one of our W's from last week. SC's offense is way too much for ASU to deal with, and will hang 50 on them, under the lights in La La Land. Autzen Stadium, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. More Pac-12 action. 3-1 Oregon, 13th ranked. 17-point favorites versus 1-2 Stanford. Last week we had Stanford in the Degenerate Special, and they gave us our first loss of the season in the Degen Special. The good news is that we didn't need it, because we had such an impressive day that all it did was drop us to 4-1 on the season in this game. Tomorrow night, the Cardinal head north again, this time to Eugene, to take on a hot Oregon squad. Stanford's lone win was over Colgate back in week 1, and they followed that up with blowout losses to USC and last week in Seattle. The Quack Attack were embarrassed by the nation's best team, Georgia, in their opener, but have quietly ripped off 3 wins with the last 2 over a couple of very good schools in BYU and at Washington State last week. 17 may be steep, but I see a 3rd straight blowout loss for the Cardinal in a Degenerate Special we hope we ain't going to need. That's it. That's 18 college plays for you. And yes, I'm aware that 2 NCAA matchups will take place on Sunday in games that were moved because of Hurricane Ian, but we're going to lay off both of them and prepare for NFL Sunday. Ready, NFL? Here we go. 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. London, England. 2-1 Minnesota versus 1-2 Saints. Set your alarm clocks, West Coasters, as Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is the site as the Vikes and Saints head across the pond. The Saints beat Atlanta, but lost to Tampa and Carolina last week, while Minneapolis sandwiched wins over Green Bay and Detroit last week around a loss to Philly. Minnie has too much firepower, and the Aints all of a sudden have a quarterback controversy with 2 really bad quarterbacks. Skull! Give me the Vikes. Lay 'em. 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Lucas Oil Stadium, East Indianapolis. The Colts 1-1-1 and 3.5-point favorites over the 1-2 Titans. The Titans always play the Colts well. And even coming off their first win of the season and last week's home win over the Raiders, the Colts are riding high. The Colts are riding high after following a shutout loss and improving Jacksonville squad with a very impressive win over the Chiefs last week to notch Indy's first win of the campaign. Matt Ryan isn't as bad as he looked against Jacksonville, all right? And the Titans' pass rush is depleted, so I see a big game from Jonathan Taylor, and the Colts are going to cruise in this one, lay the 3.5. 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Atlanta, Georgia. Cleveland, 2-1. They come in as 1-point favorites over the 1-2 Falcons. Both teams have played 3 tough games that could have gone either way to start the season. While Cleveland's going to run the ball early and often, Marcus Mariota all of a sudden has some serious weapons and firepower to distribute to it, and I like the home dog in Hot Town. Give me the Falcons, +1. 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Jerry World, Arlington, Texas. Dallas, 2-1 and 3-point favorites over the 1-2 Commanders. Washington football team. Beware of traps. That's all I got to say. Beware of traps. The Redskins / Commanders look like shit. Like straight up dog shit as Carson Wentz got his ass kicked at home against Philly last week. But Dallas is on a short week after a tough win in Snoopy Land over the G-Men in Jersey on Monday night. Dallas should be 5 or 6. Why is it 3? So everyone can take Dallas. That's why. Give me DC as the road dog. 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Motor City. Detroit basketball. Detroit football. 1 and 2 Detroit Lions. 4-point favorites over the 1 and 2 Seahawks. The Lions haven't been favored in like 37 years. Seems like. How are they 4-point chalk? Seattle's a mess. Though they showed up and played well in last week's loss to Atlanta, Detroit may be 1 and 2, but to me they're 3 and 0 against the number. That's all that matters. Until someone knocks Detroit off, I'm going to keep on rolling with them. Give me the Lions. 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Snoopy Stadium up in Jersey. The 2-1 Giants are 3-point favorites over the 2-1 Bears. Yeah, the Giants and Bears are both 2-1. How? I have no idea. But this is a bad game with two bad teams. Though the winner will somehow be 3-1. Danny Turnovers isn't my favorite quarterback, but right now Justin Fields is just plain awful. Give me the Giants. 1 p.m. Eastern Time at the Link in Philly. The 3-0 Eagles, 6.5-point favorites over the 2-1 Jaguars. The Eagles are the best team on the planet and are going to win the Super Bowl easily, right? Well, that's what all the talking heads will tell you. But I'm still not sold on them. It's a good team, but I am sold on the Jags' young and very impressive defense and a steadily improving Trevor Lawrence. Give me the points. 1 p.m. Eastern Time at the stadium formerly known as the Ketchup Bottle. Pittsburgh, 1 and 2, and it's 3.5-point favorites over the 1 and 2 Jets. If you thought Chicago versus New York Giants was bad, this one's even worse. The Jets are a bad football team, and while Zach Wilson returns this week, not exactly sure if that's good or bad. One thing's for sure, Mitch Trubisky is a bad quarterback behind a horrible offensive line. That Najee Harris, Najee, not Najee, all right, correct pronunciation, folks. The man's name is Najee. Najee Harris has only rushed for 128 yards in 3 games behind that O-line. Give me the Jets, I guess, because I love the hook. 1 p.m. Eastern Time, M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. Probably the game of the week. What I say is the game of the week. 2-1 Bills are 3-point favorites on the road at the 2-1 Ravens. Now, this is more like it. These two squads can easily face off in January. Both teams' only loss was to Miami. I love the Ravens' running game, but I like the world's fascination with the Bills more, meaning the NFL wants the Bills at 3-1 more than they want Baltimore at 3-1. Give me the Bills. 1 p.m. Eastern Time, H-Town. The 1 and 2 San Diego / La La Land Chargers, 5-point favorites on the road at 0-2-1 Houston. The Texans are better than their record shows, but last week's loss to Chicago is just simply a bad look. The Chargers have never, ever won a big game. But the good news is that this isn't one of them. I don't care if Herbert's banged up and Bosa's out, and they're all banged up everywhere. This isn't a big game. Chargers win, and Chargers win easily. Lay them. 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Charlotte, Bank of America Stadium. The 1 and 2 Panthers are 2-point favorites over the 1 and 2 Cardinals. Is this a trap? Arizona wanted to part ways with Kyler Murray in the offseason, but they got stuck paying him, and now I don't think either side is very happy since Kyler quit on them last season, especially in the playoffs. Carolina may not be a Super Bowl contender, but their 2 losses were by a combined 5 points, and they're healthy. I'll take the home chalk here. 4:25 Eastern Time, Lambeau Field. This is the matchup. 2-1 Packers, 9.5-point favorites versus the 1 and 2 Patriots. Well, another matchup, not the matchup, but one of them. The Pats are a disaster. They're a total mess right now. And news alert, but Bill Belichick is getting surly. Yeah, their only win was against a bad Pittsburgh squad. Now they head to Whiskey to take on a squad the media and the NFL adore. This is the type of game that Aaron Rodgers throws 5 touchdowns and everyone calls him the greatest and the favorite for the MVP again. Makes me sick, but take the Pack anyway. 4:25 Eastern Time, Las Vegas. Raiders versus Broncos. Raiders are 0-3, but they're 2.5-point chalk against the 2-1 Broncos. The worst 2-1 team in the NFL. Sorry, Brent. Heads to the Death Star to take on the best 0-3 team in the league. The Broncos have hardly been impressive, right? Period. And the Raiders have lost all 3 games by 1 score and are in a must-win situation. Raiders are clearly the play here. Sunday night football, 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time. This one's in Tampa now. They're going to play it in Tampa. And this is the media darling game. 2-1 Kansas City at 2-1 Tampa. Tampa's a 1-point favorite. It looked like this one was going to get moved to Miami at first because of Hurricane Ian, but it's not. The press will talk about the quarterbacks and how it's the greatest matchup of all time, but there's actually 2 good matchups playing. There's actually two good teams playing on Sunday night. The Bucks may be getting healthy, but they're scuffling offensively right now. And so are the Chiefs. But I think the Chefs will not lose 2 straight games, while the Bucks will and can. Monday Night Football, Santa Clara at the Giant Gene, Levi Stadium. The Giant Gene, that doesn't really make sense. But the 1-2 49ers, 1.5-point favorites against the 2-1 defending Super Bowl champion Rams. This is the perfect spot for the Rams, period. It's a perfect spot for them to drop the hammer on the Niners after SF looked like dog shit on Sunday night against Denver, and the Rams have won 2 straight. The public's going to back the Rams, but the Niners have owned La La Land the last 3 years, right? They won 6 straight games, and even in the NFC Championship game, when SF was a dropped interception away from going to the Super Bowl, the public takes the Rams. We'll take SF. I've now found a reliable site that gives out advanced lines for a week in advance. So starting now, I'm going to give you Thursday's pick in advance. So while the Niners-Rams matchup on Wednesday ends week 4, week 5 begins on Thursday with a matchup of Indy at Denver. Right now that number sits at Denver minus 2.5, and that could very easily change. Depending on what happens this weekend, but at 2.5, I'm going to take the Broncos to get to 3-2. Now, if the line is more than a full point different in either direction, I'll take it off and I won't play it. But as usual, listen carefully. If you're interested in who I like Thursday night, you can always call, text, or just simply respond to this email or respond to this video in the comments section, and I'll let you know by Wednesday night exactly who I like. Like I said, though, if it's between 1.5 and 3.5, I'm taking the Broncos. So that's it for the week. That's what you get. All right, is that enough for you? That's a total of 18 NCAA plays and 15 on the NFL side for 33 on the week. 19 wins is a solid week, but anything above that will just add to our early season dominance. In the meantime, remember, if you want to win big, you got to bet big. Scared money don't make money. For me, the action is the juice. There's money on the streets that can't be ignored. And finally, good luck to you.